Hello everyone, my name's David, and today I'm going to look at the Gravely starter clutch from the L models. I've been working on a starter clutch for a couple days, and I'm reading a lot of information service bulletins and watching what YouTube videos there are. Just not a good video explaining specifically how to put it together. So on my trials and errors last 2 days, I decided I need to do something for everyone else because it's a little bit complicated if you don't know what you're doing. So starting off with a basic starter clutch here, a few tools that I use: basic ice pick, which is not that one, it's this one. A good pair of snap ring pliers for snap ring here. A 1/8 deep ball socket, and I have a 7/8 deep ball socket also, and I'll show you how to use those in a few minutes. And also, if you have a hydraulic press, is great. This is a cheap one out of Harbor Freight, wasn't too expensive, it was really good. And I've already taken the snap ring off, and I've also taken the dust spacer off, which this belongs on the top. If it's on the bottom, then someone put it together wrong. What this does is protects the sealed bearing here by getting dirt and debris in it on the operator side. So the snap ring, take the snap ring off, the dust shield off, and next I'm going to pause this so I can pull the bearing off the press. So you can do it several different ways. You can use a vise and also do it in a socket. This 1/8 inch socket fits over top of the shaft, and you want to press on the inner bearing right here. So this little recessed part of the bearing, the inner brace, well, that's the part you want to press on. And the 1/8 inch socket, 1 1/8, excuse me, deep ball socket impact works great for this. Fits over top of the shaft, and it doesn't bind, and it goes far enough that it won't bottom out, so it presses off perfectly. So on the bottom side of this is the same thing. You have a second seal bearing and a snap ring, but this snap ring can stay in place because when you put it back together, it's got a stopping point. So this socket here around top of the race and press it out all in one piece. Now you can put a rag underneath the bottom of it. You can put a can, a bucket to catch the roller bearings. And there's 21 roller bearings, and I'll show you how to put those in because no one showed me, and I figured out the hard way. So let me pause this here, and I'm going to pull it apart. Thanks. Alright, I have the press set up right now with a socket upside down, sitting just on the edges of the front, so the bottom piston and the clutch pieces can fall out so it won't bind. So I'm going to go ahead, you guys know how to operate a press, just push it out. So I'm going to pause it here, I'm going to pull everything apart. Alright, you can see it get all apart, and you can see the roller bearings, and this is packed with grease. Alright, here's a warning for anybody who puts this back together. Grease will kill the starter clutch. Do not use grease at all. Use what a locksmith uses is a dry lubricant, graphite, to put this all together. The reason for that is these roller bearings are made in a way that it's got to rotate in 2 different directions, and this grease will seize the roller bearing. It won't let it operate to open the clutch and lock the clutch. So grease prevents that, it locks it. So whatever you do, clean these up in gasoline or whatever cleaning solvent you have before you put it all back together. Now you see this lower bearing still in here. I'm going to pull that back out, and I'll show you how I put it together. I like to take the upper bearing off here, put the lower bearing on the shaft, and press the lower bearing halfway down to set the roller bearings in, and then I'll put the upper bearing on last. And I'll show you that in a minute. So let me clean this up, pull this bearing off the shaft, pull this lower bearing out, and I'll clean it all up and get ready to go. Alright, I'm back. Now, while I'm inspecting all these items, I noticed this is the lower bearing here. And if you're checking your bearing, try and roll it through your fingers. This one's really tight. It's really tight. So I don't like this bearing, and I'm not going to use it. I have 2 around here somewhere that I just took apart yesterday in another clutch. So I'm going to swap this bearing out here. The upper bearing here is a little bit dirty yet, but it spins nice and smooth. So There's no binding here at all, so this is a good bearing. I'll use this one. This one here I'm going to get rid of because I don't like how it spins. It's got a stopping point and it sticks, so I can't do it too well with one hand, but I can feel it. So it's not to my satisfaction, so I'm going to replace that. So let me go find the other bearings. Here's the roller clutches and let them dry. And it's 2 springs, upper and lower springs. I clean up, and I'm going to go find my bearings and I'll come back. Thanks. Alright, I'm back. Now, unfortunately, I didn't find the bearings I wanted. However, take a notice, this shaft here, well, it comes off. Well, that's not supposed to happen. This bearing, just like the upper bearing right here, is pressed onto the upper and the lower part. So this free fits so smoothly, it defeats the purpose. So this is no good. So for instructional purposes only, I'll just show you how I do it. I put the bearing and assembly in almost 3/4 away, almost full length before the first bearing is in. So you want to put the first spring in, either one of 2. There's only 2 springs, the upper spring and lower spring. And the secret is on the roller pin. Roller bearing, if I can focus this a little bit better, it won't focus. Alright, the roller bearing has 2 points. The left side is flat, and the right side here, the left side is a little flat here, and the right side's got a little bit of a half moon to it. If you can see that there, you can spin the other side here, you'll see the difference. To the right side you have a flat groove here, and left is a little bit larger, and it's a little bit round spot right there. The secret what I had to find out the hard way is bearings go in one way only. And if you see the way the bearing's laid out here, this is the only way it goes in. Alright, if you have one of these in the opposite direction, like this, your clutch will not work. This is something I had not seen before, so this is what I found out and passed along. So this is incorrect. All your bearings should look and go in just like this. And the inside of the spring will fit inside this little groove here. So you drop it down, make sure it's straight, utilize the ice pick, and make sure the spring is on the inside groove, like right here on the bottom. So all your 21 roller bearings will go around. Either you can go left, you can go right, doesn't matter. And make sure that this flat part right here always faces to the left as you go around. Now that's the most important part, because like I said before, I had them in backwards and it will lock up. So the groove is specific. That way it was wrong. So you flip it around and make sure that little flat part here to my thumb on the left goes in just like that. Drops in the hole. Alright, so double check the way you have your bearings rotated, because it will not work if it's backwards. Alright, so make sure you have the long flat edge on the left. Alright, let me pull this back apart. I gotta go find more parts, and hopefully, well, let me go back up. Once you get all the roller bearings in, alright, carefully put your spring inside on the inside groove of your bearings. Alright, and this should be on. You have to use your hand. What I use is a 5x8 card and make sure it's seated right, or my fingers, and make sure it's seated. So it helps if the bearings are down below flush the surface, because the spring will pop out because it's a little bit bent. Alright, so one thing to remind you is with the springs and the 2 bearings on here, do not pull the springs off the bearings. Alright, what I mean is, if the bearings are assembled left and right, and your springs are inside here, when it comes apart, do not pull the spring over top of the bearing to get it off. This one here has been, and you can see how stretched it is. Well, it doesn't work very well when you put it back together because it pops out all the time. So always remove one of the bearings and just let this slide off the shaft like that, because you have to spend another $20 to buy 2 more springs. All right, so that's another hint I didn't hear before either. So make sure your springs are in place. The needle bearings are up. That one fell down. Then put the last bearing on top after spring and press it back down like you pulled it apart. And that's why I use the 1 1/8 socket. It sits on the inside of the bearing right here. Press it down. All right. Now, I'd like to start off with using a 7/8 socket on the bottom underneath here, because if this is only halfway down, you start pressing the bearing on top, the needle bearings will stay still, but the bearings will move and the spring will pop out. So what we like to do is compress the bearings on the shaft by putting the socket underneath and setting this on top. Put the upper bearing on it and compress it, make sure the spring's in place. Then I'll take that back off, put it on the press, and use this to push it all the rest of the way in. That's just how I do it. You can put this all the way down in the bottom and put springs in, but it's really hard to use the ice pick so far down in here. Make sure that spring is on the inside of the roller bearings. I just happen to do it a little higher so I can actually reach it with the ice pick. But there is enough gap between for the ice pick, so you shouldn't have a problem. Just make sure you don't damage the spring when you're using the ice pick, and gently push it back towards the center here so it's inside the roller bearings. Alright, I'm going to conclude this since this is going to be a waste of time, since it's no good. And good luck in your starter clutch. Thanks for watching. Okay, I'm back. This is David again. I found my other bearings and my other piece, and I got it partway assembled here. Now, if you take a close look, you'll see the bearing, the flat, the roll bearings, the flats are on the left side. Okay. You notice if you pick a bearing and try to put it in, let me back out here a little bit. All right, so the right side is the correct way to go, like this. All right. If you try to put it in the opposite direction, it doesn't go. However, if you do it this way, it does go. So if you have a problem getting in, you have to twist it sideways, well, you're wrong. So the hardest part for me was finding out this flat edge goes to the left. And just use your ice pick and put the bearing in, make sure the spring is on the inside. You can't really see it down in the hole there, but once it's in right, yeah, so I can't do this one-handed, so I'm going to finish this back up and put it back together. There you go. You see now the spring's in it, sit right in place. So that's all you have to do is make sure that the lower left hand of the roller bearings all to the left side as you go all the way around. And of course this is backwards, so it's on the right. So as long as these are in the same direction, you won't have any problem when you put the bearing on top of it after you put the spring on, of course, and then bearing, and press it all back down and you'll be okay. Alright, so you can see right now I'm twisting a little bit by hand, which you shouldn't do, but I've got lock up backwards. Yeah, it's working pretty good, so it's spinning, so it's doing what it's supposed to do. Alright, so don't do what I'm doing right now because these bearings will move and you want to make sure they're out of place. So try not to move this. Set your bearings in, make sure the O-ring's on the inside, put your upper O-ring in, then put your bearing in, press it back together, then install the dust seal, which I have, for some reason this has multiple ones. It's like 3 of them here. You only need one, goes on top. For some reason it had 3, so I don't need 3. So put it back together and we'll see how it goes. Alright, have a good day. Bye. Alright, I'm back. Finished up the starter clutch, and I have the shim already here. And clean up a little bit more and put snap ring back on it. But you see now, starter clutch, it's free, but it's going to rotate clockwise. It's going to lock up, so you can't turn it counterclockwise. But it's free, so the engine spins. Alright, so that's what you want. free spinning, and the engine moves, turns flywheel, and starter clutch. And it's gonna lock up. So this locks up one direction and it free spins the other direction. So it works. So let's put it back together and put it on one of my Griblies, and I'll hopefully get the rest of it done. So hopefully you learned something with this. I'll be back for some more videos later on. Want to find some more parts. And good luck to your Gravely maintenance and your day. Thank you.